year or so, I've been working on a John C. Young project that started out as research for a psychotherapy and has morphed into inspiration for a music therapy album. So the initial inspiration for this project started when we all got sent home for COVID. As we've all experienced to some extent or another, being put in isolation caused quite a bit of suffering and mental distress worldwide. So that sort of sparked the idea that there needs to be some way for people to cope with, react to, and accept situations that are completely out of our control or unexpected or just cause distress or discomfort in general. So after speaking with Dr. Willa Cipolla in the psychology department, he introduced me to a therapy that really encapsulated that idea. And that is acceptance and commitment therapy. So what this therapy is really trying to cultivate is something called psychological flexibility. And what this is the ability to accept the way that you're feeling and the way that you think naturally, and give yourself a new perspective on the way that you see yourself and your life and the way you relate to others. Another large part of this therapy is learning to turn towards your suffering instead of away from it. It's a very common tendency for people to try to avoid the dark places that your mind might go because it's uncomfortable. However, that is not always possible. So this therapy is meant to teach you how to manage that. The therapy is consolidated into 6 pivots or mental processes, if you will. So I won't go into depth about all 6 of these, just for time's sake, but I will go into depth about 2 in a little bit. So we've got staying in the present moment, experiencing acceptance, cognitive diffusion, self as context, committed action, and values. Now, I thought that these 6 pivots in the therapy overall would be a great thing to share with the world because I actually went through it myself, and it really helped me cope with a lot of the challenges that I was experiencing at the time during COVID and other things piling on top of that. And while I was in isolation, music really helped me manage any mental distress that I was experiencing. Sort of gave me an outlet, whether or not I was the one writing it or listening to other people's music. So I thought maybe that could be helpful for other people, and it could expose them to the ideas in this therapy without the stress that therapy might cause some people or the financial issues. So the album itself is based on the 6 pivots, and for each of the 6 pivots, there have been 2 songs assigned to it. So one song is a conceptual song, and that's essentially going to describe certain techniques or general ideas that explain what the pivot is and what it's trying to accomplish by developing it. So this one doesn't really delve much into my own personal experiences, however, it's supposed to introduce the listener to the pivot itself. And because of that, I thought it would be necessary to pair another song with it that's about my personal experiences. And as I said before, I actually went through acceptance and commitment therapy with Dr. Spears in Center's counseling department. And it was not easy all the time. It didn't feel like a school project. It felt like I was actually putting myself through this therapy. And so the songs that are about my personal experiences definitely opened me up a bit more to my audience. So the first song I'm going to be showing you guys today is called Emotions Aside, which is shocker to what that one's about. And this is based on the pivot self as context. Now, this pivot is really trying to teach you how to learn to be an observer to your thoughts and emotions rather than getting so caught up in the content of them. A lot of times our emotions and thoughts can come up randomly or be triggered by really anything, even if it's not worthy of a reaction from us. So it's good to be able to find distance from that and learn to just recognize that a thought process is happening or that you're emoting rather than going down the rabbit hole that we often do. So the musical arrangement of this one was one of my favorites. I'm very inspired by jazz music because my dad is a jazz musician. He's recording right now. And lucky for me, I was able to hire him for free to play saxophone for this song. And he drove all the way to Center to record in the studio with me for hours to put this song together, and I'm so grateful for all of his help the whole way through. And I'm the vocalist for this song and all the songs on the album. And this is just an overview of the mess of my workstation. I produce music on a software program called Logic Pro, And Dr. Worley in Center's music department has been working with me for a couple years now to teach me how to produce music at a professional level quality, and he's been the person guiding me through the production of this whole album, and I'm very grateful for his help. I could not have done it without him. So essentially the way that this song was put together is I started out by writing out the saxophone part and then a rhythm section, which was just the two core components of the song. And then on top of that, I started building layer by layer all of these tracks and instruments to start putting together an entire song. So as I said before, there are two types of songs, and this one in particular is a conceptual song. So it doesn't go into my personal experiences too much, although it is still from my perspective. This was a bit challenging to write lyrics for the conceptual songs, simply because I didn't want it to sound like the lyrics were coming straight out of a textbook or that they were from psychotherapy. So with Dr. Tinsky's help, also from Center's music department, he has been guiding me through learning how to compose songs and write lyrics that really open me up to the audience and don't directly say things, but kind of help guide the listener there and let them sort of take their own journey rather than me just laying everything out on the table and telling them step by step how to do it. So you probably can't read any of this. I just wanted to show you guys what the notes look like. If you can, then those are the lyrics. But just a few of the lyrics to explain how the pivot sort of plays into the song. One of them is, I want to cry and I couldn't tell you why. And that's just saying emotions can be triggered randomly and arbitrarily. So it's important not to connect our self-worth or the value of our life to these things that can often be random. Another lyric is, emotions aside, just moving and grooving to the beat of life. And that's saying that no matter what I'm feeling, my emotions do not determine the way that I view myself or the quality of my life. And quite literally putting emotions aside so as to continue living my life freely. And now I'm going to play that song. so that's that. And thank you very much. So the second song, I'm only going to be showing two. You'll have to go find the album on any streaming service once it's out in May. But so the second one is quite a bit of a vibe change. This one's called Pulling Daisies. And as you guys were probably hearing some strange noises when you walked in, those were singing bowls and a gamelan, which are ancient instruments from Bali and India. And over the past year or so, I've been going to, I guess, lessons or Indian rhythms class with Dr. Patinsky to learn about sound therapy and how these frequencies from these ancient instruments can be healing and put you in a meditative state of mind, which for this therapy specifically, that's pretty important. When you're put into this meditative state, your conscious mind sort of is at ease, and then your subconscious comes to the forefront, and it's able to be a bit more open to ideas that you typically might block out because of preconceptions or certain beliefs that you hold true on your day-to-day life. So it's incorporated throughout the album, but specifically in this song. You'll hear some singing bowls and tablas, which are Indian drums, and what this does is there's a tabla playing one rhythmic pattern on one side of the stereo field, and then another tabla playing another rhythmic pattern on the other side of the stereo field. And these two patterns sort of bounce off of each other, creating binaural beats in the listener's head, again, putting them in that meditative state of mind. So the pivot that this one is based on is the present moment. And this is essentially just learning how to ground yourself through your sensory experiences in the present moment, allowing your thoughts to come and go, just think freely, breathe, and feel. The musical arrangement of this one was also very fun. Pictured on the right here is mid-recording session for that meditation soundtrack, and my friend Peyton was also helping play, so thank you, Peyton. And it was so cool. We felt like we were put into a trance after we went through this recording session. It was really incredible. And again, I'm the vocalist in this one and also the guitarist. Here's another picture of the workstation. It was built pretty similarly, just starting out with some chord tracks and the main sound of the song, and then building on it layer by layer, again with the help of Dr. Worley. And the lyrical inspiration for this one definitely was a bit harder for me to write about, just because it is one of the experiential songs, and so it's really delving into my personal experience going through the therapy and trying to cultivate this pivot of learning how to be in the present moment. That can definitely be challenging for me at times because I have ADHD, and that's what the song is about. So I constantly get caught up in dazes or just get completely out of focus from the present moment. My mind starts racing and I can't stop going down all these rabbit holes. And then once I notice that I'm distracted in the first place, I get frustrated, which makes me even further distracted. So it's a loop. But one of the lyrics is, I tune back in for the fourth time. And again, that's just saying I constantly zone out what's happening around me because I'm getting caught up in my thoughts. Another lyric is, feels like 14 steps of mine is only long as one of your strides. And I often feel as though I'm falling behind or trying to race to keep up with the pace that everyone else is able to operate at. So it's expressing that. And then another lyric is, I get frustrated when I come to each time. Again, I just struggle to ground myself in the present moment, and once I realize that I'm distracted, it causes me further distraction. So, although this song isn't necessarily teaching you how to cultivate the pivot, that's what the conceptual song is for. And this one is just me being vulnerable about my struggle cultivating it. And now I'll play that one. Also, just take a few deep breaths and sit back and relax, because this is supposed to calm you a bit and put you in that meditative state. So just be open to it.
So
Okay, any questions? If not, that's fantastic. Honestly. Yes.
Who are some of your favorite artists that inspired this style of music?
It's definitely a wide range. You can start with the Grateful Dead. I'm taking the Grateful Dead class this semester. Hopefully that'll give me an A. And Amy Winehouse, the Beatles, Frank Ocean, SZA. It's definitely a combination of modern and some older stuff as well. Yes, Piper?
Where did you record those ancient drumming in the pictures you showed us?
That was at Larry's house actually, or Dr. Tinsky's house. So, yeah, so the tablas in the song just then were not actually played by any of us in the recording session. Dr. Worley and I found some recorded ones online and then matched the patterns against each other. Yes?
So would you like to do this kind of work therapeutically yourself?
I would like to. I don't know if I'm going to continue making music specifically for therapeutic purposes, although I do want it to hopefully help heal people. That's the main goal. But mostly just help people connect and feel heard and accepted or maybe feel similar to someone else. Okay, well, that's all. Oh, yes, Ben.
How do you think this John C. Young grant helped you with this project?
Oh, it helped me big time. That was how I could get the singing bowls, which was one of my favorite parts of the project actually, as well as a lot of software plugins for the production aspects of things. Yeah, it was definitely helpful.
As your father, I could say that your concepts and everything really came across. They kind of focused and centered a lot. So, in a way, probably whoever sponsored this John C. Young idea of this was hoping to fund ideas going forward, which is what it seemed to. So it wasn't just a monetary thing. I think my impression. Could you talk about that?
I think you said it best, honestly. Okay, well, thank you all very much.